Well, let's get to the NFC East here, because the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that benefited from a favorable schedule last year, they were also really good from a talent perspective, but the combination of the two is why they went 14-3 and steamrolled their way to the Super Bowl. But the Eagles, their win total right now is sitting at 10.5, and their schedule much harder this year. In fact, it's the hardest schedule according to last season's win percentages, if you want to read into that one. How do you factor in Philly this year, now playing tougher quarterbacks than they did a year ago?
Well, I think the other thing you got to factor in with Philadelphia is that they are the hunted one. And this offense that they ran last year, which caught people off guard, they scored 207 points in the second quarter last year. They played from in front in every single game. Is going to be an offense that is studied relentlessly this offseason by teams. I mean, even if you're the New York Football Giants and you've played the Eagles twice, you want to study them. There's an element of what can we do differently to handle them? How do we handle that rugby formation? How do we handle what they want to do? Their offense isn't complicated, but their offense is really good at deciding on making the game easy for Hurts. And I think that element of we're going to study this Eagle team really hard in the offseason, and we're going to figure out what we can do. Plus, remember now, the Eagles have two new coordinators, right? Mm-hmm. A completely new defense coordinator and a completely offense coordinator, even though Sirianni's going to run the offense. So, I think that plays into it. But teams will have more time to get used to them and see what they do. How do we get them out of the rhythm? What did Dennis Allen do? I know Gardner Minshew was the quarterback, but what did he do in that game? They struggled to beat the Giants with Davis Webb at quarterback in Week 18. So I think there's one of the things when you win, like I think one of the offseason projects that the fans don't discuss is when a team's good at something, teams study them. I think the Eagles were a team that got studied a lot this offseason and still being studied. I think the Detroit Lions offense was another team that's going to get studied a lot this offseason. I think Ben Johnson, as a play caller, will get studied a lot this offseason. That's what you do in the offseason, because in the season, you don't have time. Monday, you got to do this. Tuesday, you got to, you're moving along. The offseason in May, once the draft's over now, we got projects we can work on. We can really spend time. How do we want to defend this offense, or how do we want to attack this defense?
I want to highlight this stretch for the Eagles after the bye week. It's week 11 to week 15. This is a difficult stretch as far as I'm concerned. You have the Super Bowl rematch at Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs. Then you come home to play the Buffalo Bills, and then you host the 49ers, who are looking for their revenge. You have Dallas on the road Sunday Night Football, and then in between an NFC East rivalry, Dallas week 14, Giants week 16, you have a trip all the way to the Pacific Northwest to face the Seattle Seahawks, where that place is as difficult a place to play in the league here. That stretch from week 11 to week 15 could be very, very difficult for this Eagles team.
Yeah, I mean, and then we don't know what the injury. I mean, one of the things I think the Eagles benefited last year was, up until the end of the year when Lance Johnson got hurt and Hurts got hurt, they were fairly healthy for most of the year. Can they duplicate that? There was always a lot of concern in Philly that they had too many injuries, going back. They changed team doctors. They did all that. Last year they were fortunate. They were a little bit older team, especially with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham coming back. So, and then can they regenerate that hunger? I think that's the other thing you got to try to do. It's a challenge for a coach to regenerate that. But the one good thing the Eagles have going for them, they have a lot of good things going for them, is Hurts' ability to want to work. Hurts' ability to not be satisfied. That drives a team. That his work ethic, his willingness to kind of keep going is what will help the Eagles if they get into any kind of contentment area.
The main challenger to the Eagles is the Dallas Cowboys, who are plus 175 to win the NFC East. First 6 weeks of the season for Dallas, 4 road games, then the bye week here. If the Cowboys trip up early on, I don't think that should be a surprise to anyone.
Well, I mean, look, the Cowboys shouldn't trip up. I mean, they got the Giants. They're a better team than the Giants. They can match up to the Jets. The Jets will have a hard time blocking them. The Jets will have a hard time. I mean, if the Jets don't fix their offensive line, they're going to have a hard time blocking them. They got the Cardinals, the Patriots. Look, every game's going to be hard. I mean, we make way too much out of, former playoff team. Every game's hard, and then we're shocked when an upset comes in. Oh my God, I think, look, the Cowboys have got to play three-dimensional. They've got to incorporate their offense has got to work together with their defense and with their kicking game. They've got to get that kicking situation straightened out. I mean, when Brett Maher went off the deep end last year, that affected him in that playoff game tremendously. I'm not sure they have it straightened out.
Yeah, I don't know if they have it straightened out either. We'll find out in training camp. The Giants, their schedule has been highly publicized with the amount of road games early on in the season. The Commanders, an interesting schedule there. Are you as bullish on the Commanders still after seeing this schedule come out? I know that you've written about the Commanders for VSiN.com.
I want to take them on the over because I think they're more talented. They didn't create turnovers last year at all. I think they had 19 as a team they created, and when they and 6 of their losses, they didn't create a turnover. So if they can get the ball out, I think, to me, now the word on the street is Dalvin Cook is available. If you put Dalvin Cook on this team, I think they're a completely different team.
I like that point that you bring up about the turnovers because despite not getting turnovers, they were still a really good defense. If they can get those turnovers, that can flip some of these games, and maybe they're better than people think.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.